I checked into the motel around 11:45 p.m. It was the kind of place you pull into when you've been driving too long to care. One story, long row of rooms, door facing the parking lot, fluorescent vacancy sign humming like a bug zapper. The guy at the front desk didn't even glance up when I came in. He slid the key across the counter and said, "Room 6. Then he looked up for the first time and added, "You're not planning to stay long, right?" I told him no, just needed a few hours sleep before finishing the last leg of the drive. My name's Nancy, by the way. I'd been helping my sister move across the state, and by the time I hit this stretch of highway, I was running on fumes. This place was the only thing open for miles. The room was small and stuffy, with that wet carpet motel smell. I dumped my bag on the single queen bed and kicked off my shoes. I'd been driving for 10 hours, eyes burning from the road. The first thing I noticed was the air. It didn't feel dirty exactly, but it had this weird metallic tang, like rust. I figured maybe the AC filter hadn't been cleaned in a while. I cranked it up and took a quick shower. The water pressure was fine, but the drain was slow. By the time I got out, I was ankle deep in murky water. Still, I was too tired to care. I toweled off and collapsed onto the bed, but the mattress felt uneven, like there were soft lumps hidden under the sheet. I pulled the blanket up to my chest and tried not to think about it. But there was something else. A faint smell I hadn't noticed before. Not the musty carpet or the metallic AC. Something sour and organic, like food that had gone bad in a sealed container. I checked the trash can. It was empty. A few minutes later, the TV clicked on by itself. I sat up, blinking. The volume was low, just a soft hum of static and voices. The remote was still on the nightstand. I grabbed it and turned the TV off. 5 minutes later, it came back on. This time it was a local news channel with fuzzy reception. A man's face appeared on screen, mid-sentence, blurry, out of focus, before flickering into static. I grabbed the remote again, changed the channel, then turned the set off completely. I stood there for a moment, watching it. Nothing happened, so I unplugged the cord from the wall. I told myself it was just some wiring issue. The motel was old, probably hadn't been updated in decades. Still, the air felt heavier now, like it was pushing down on me. I sat back on the edge of the bed but didn't lie down. The lumps were bothering me again, uneven patches beneath the sheet. I pulled the blanket tighter around me and stared at the bathroom door. For some reason, I didn't want to get up and close it. Eventually, I tried turning the lamp off, but my eyes stayed wide open in the dark. The air unit buzzed and clicked in a rhythm that started to sound like breathing. I shifted, then shifted again. Something under my back wouldn't stop pressing into me. I turned the light back on and sat up. This time I decided to check. I pressed both hands down across the mattress, trying to feel the shape of the lumps. One spot near the center felt soft, like clothing. Another closer to the edge felt harder, like a shoulder. I got up and opened the closet first. Nothing. Pulled back the shower curtain. Nothing. I stood in the middle of the room for a long time, barefoot, unsure what I was even trying to rule out. Finally, I knelt down beside the bed. I leaned over slowly and peered beneath it, just for a second. And in that second, I saw them. Eyes. Wide open, barely blinking, shining back at me from the shadows under the bed. There was no sound, no movement, just a face, partially obscured, watching me. I launched backward, hit the nightstand, and scrambled for the door. Fumbled the chain, yanked it open, and ran barefoot into the parking lot without stopping to grab my keys, my phone, or my shoes. I didn't stop running until I reached the front office. The same clerk was sitting there, head down, half asleep behind the desk. When I burst in, gasping, he just blinked at me. I told him someone was in my room, under my bed. He stared for a second, then slowly reached for the phone. "What room?" he asked. I said 6. His face went pale. He called the police. A sheriff's deputy arrived 10 minutes later. I waited outside in a plastic lawn chair while they went in with flashlights. I couldn't stop shaking. A second cruiser pulled up not long after, then a third. I didn't hear any shouting, just a short, clipped, "Got him," over the radio. They walked him out cuffed, barefoot, head down. He didn't look at me. One of the officers came back out and crouched beside me. He was calm, but there was this tightness behind his eyes. He said, "Ma'am, you're lucky. Most of the time when we find someone hiding under a bed, it's too late." I nodded, but I was still too stunned to speak. I just kept thinking about those eyes. How long had he been there? They showed me a knife in an evidence bag, said he never had a chance to use it. I asked how long he'd been hiding there. The officer said, "Hard to say. His shoes were off. Looked comfortable. Might have been in there before you even checked in." That made my blood run cold. The deputy asked if I had taken anything out of the drawers or moved the pillows. I shook my head. He said, "Good, because he left something for whoever came next." I never did ask what it was. I got in my car barefoot and drove until the sun came up. I never slept in another motel again. Doesn't matter how tired I am. I'll sleep in a parking lot, in a gas station booth, anywhere. Just not a motel room with a bed I didn't make myself. Because I still remember the way those eyes looked. Not scared, not angry, waiting. I woke up to see a woman standing inside my motel room, between me and the door. She wore a pale green cleaning uniform and held a bundle of towels. I froze. She just smiled politely and said, "Sorry to wake you. I thought you'd checked out." Then she turned and walked out like nothing was wrong. It was a budget motel just outside Gallup, New Mexico. One of those long, single-story strips where the parking lot faces your door. I'd pulled in around 1 a.m. after a 14-hour drive. Room 106. Just me, my duffel bag, and a deadbolt that stuck a little when I locked it. I crashed fully dressed, never even pulled back the covers. So the fact that she came in thinking I was gone didn't make sense. My car was parked right out front. I figured maybe housekeeping made a mistake. She was in and out so fast, I didn't get a good look at her. Medium build, gray-streaked hair tied back. No name tag. She hadn't touched anything. But I checked the door after she left. The bolt was turned all the way open, even though I swore I'd locked it. That bothered me more than her walking in. I planned to leave early, but I ended up sleeping late and pushing checkout. Around midnight that night, I still wasn't tired. I decided to stay one more night. Too much highway ahead of me and not enough sleep. The room had a weird smell I couldn't place, but I chalked it up to bad plumbing or old carpet. I left the TV on while I read emails in bed. That's when I heard the handle jiggle. It wasn't loud, just that soft metallic rattle, like someone testing it gently. I muted the TV and waited. Nothing. I got up and looked through the peephole. No one. I opened the door and stepped outside. Just the row of rooms stretching out in either direction, mostly dark. One car down by the office. No one walking by. The lot was empty. I went back in, made sure the deadbolt was locked, and sat up for another hour. In the morning, I asked the clerk at the front desk if I could check out a little late. And while I was there, I casually mentioned the housekeeping lady coming in the previous day. "The woman in green," I said. "She thought I'd checked out." The guy behind the counter stared at me like I'd just told a joke. Then he said, "We don't have any cleaning staff. Haven't had any since the winter storm. We're still hiring replacements." I laughed like it was a misunderstanding, but my stomach dropped. I described the woman in more detail. He shook his head. "No one's supposed to enter occupied rooms." "You said she had a key?" I nodded. He just said, "Well, you're the only person checked into that section of the building. I'll have maintenance check the locks." I went back to pack. Suddenly the room felt different. I kept thinking about that smell. Stale and sweet, like dried flowers and mildew. I lifted the corner of the mattress, checked under the bed. Nothing. But when I pulled my pillow off to shake it out, I found something tucked underneath. A slip of paper. It was folded in half and stained faintly at the corner. There were only 7 words, written in shaky pen. "Check out. She comes back at night." I held the note for a long time. I didn't want to set it down. I didn't even want to look away from it. It wasn't just the words. It was how the paper was still warm, like it had just been slipped under there. The bed had been untouched all night. I hadn't moved the pillow since I arrived. I checked the door again. Locked. Then I looked up at the smoke detector, at the bathroom vent, at the tiny crack where the carpet ended near the baseboard heater. I don't know what I was expecting to see, but I couldn't shake the feeling that whoever left the note hadn't walked out through the door. I packed fast, didn't shower, just threw everything in the bag and left the key on the front desk. As I pulled out, I saw my room reflected in the side mirror, just a dark, blank door behind me. Whatever that place is, whatever room 106 was, I hope no one else gets checked into it. But every time I stay somewhere new now, I check under the pillow, just to be sure she hasn't found me again. I nearly nodded off doing 75. No streetlights, no gas stations, just black highway and desert brush. When the rumble strip startled me awake for the second time, I turned off at the next exit, heart pounding. That's how I ended up at a roadside motel with a dying neon sign and not a single car in the lot. My name's Dylan. I was halfway through a cross-country drive for work, not my usual kind of job, but I'd picked up a last-minute delivery run to make some extra cash. I'd been on the road since morning and just needed a few hours of sleep before the final leg. The front office looked closed, but the door was unlocked, and a man stood inside behind the counter, not saying a word. He just stared at me, then reached under the desk and slid over a brass key. "Room 13, he said flatly. "Don't open the door if anyone knocks." For a second, I hesitated. The guy's tone was serious, not like a joke or motel legend. But I told myself he was probably just messing with me, trying to spook the tired out-of-towner. The place looked clean enough. Quiet. And I was dead on my feet. I figured if there was something actually wrong, He wouldn't have handed over the key. Inside, it was dead silent. A small fan buzzed behind the desk. The man didn't make eye contact again, and he didn't offer a receipt. I glanced around the office. No brochures, no coffee station, no signs of anyone else staying there. Just a faded fire escape map taped to the wall. Rooms 1 through 12 were in a straight row. Room 13 was off to the side. I stepped back outside. The parking lot was still empty, and the only light came from a flickering bulb above the office. I walked the length of the building. Rooms 1 through 12 were lined up neat, but room 13 was different. Around the corner, set apart from the others, with no number on the door. Just a dented trash can nearby, and the buzzing of distant power lines. Inside, the room was bare. No TV, no phone, no clock. Just a bed, a chair, and a box fan bolted to the window. The walls looked like they'd been painted over multiple times. I set my bag down and checked my phone. No signal. I figured I'd sleep a few hours and keep driving in the morning. I was in a dead sleep when suddenly I woke to a knock. Not loud. Slow. Deliberate. Just 3 taps. I sat up disoriented. The fan was still humming, but the air felt different. Heavier. Another knock. Then a voice.
Please. I'm hurt.
A woman. Her voice cracked like she'd been crying.
Please. Let me in.
I froze. I remembered the clerk's warning. Don't open the door if anyone knocks. But the voice sounded desperate. She didn't bang or scream. She just pleaded.
I'm bleeding. I need help.
I got up slowly and approached the door, my heartbeat picking up. I leaned toward the peephole, but the walkway outside was empty. No one there. The voice came again, right up against the door now.
Please. I'm not going to make it.
Then suddenly she started pounding. Full fist slams that rattled the door in its frame. I turned to grab the room phone to call the front desk, but when I picked it up, there was nothing. No dial tone. Just dead silence. That's when I remembered. My cell phone was still in the car. I stared at the door for a second, wondering if I'd imagined all of it. Maybe I'd been dreaming. Maybe it was sleep paralysis. But then, 2 more slams. Harder this time. Closer together. I stepped back fast. That's when the scratching started. Long, slow fingernails across the door. And then,
let me in.
Her voice had changed. Lower now. Off. Like something trying to sound human and failing. I didn't move. The knob jiggled. The fan in the window sputtered. And then I heard a whisper. Flat, breathy, and too close.
Let me in.
The door thudded once. Then silence. I stood in the corner, holding my breath, staring at the door for what felt like hours. The next time I opened my eyes, sunlight was pushing through the curtain. I didn't remember falling asleep. I walked to the door and opened it slowly. The outside handle was smeared with something dark red. Dried. There were deep scratches across the wood, gouged in hard like someone had used a blade or their nails over and over. I took the key back to the front office. The clerk was pouring coffee like nothing had happened. Someone tried to get into my room last night, I said. She said she was hurt. He didn't look surprised. He nodded once and said, "You made it through. That's what matters." I stared at him. What is this place? He didn't answer, just pointed behind me toward the map on the wall. I turned and looked. The printed floor plan behind the glass showed rooms 1 through 12, then jumped to 14. No room 13. "That key," he said, "opens the storage unit out back. We keep it clean, just in case someone needs a place to lock the door tight." I walked out in silence, past my own tire tracks in the dirt. As I reached my car, I turned back toward that corner unit. The door, the one with no number, was wide open now, swinging slightly in the morning breeze. And for a second, I thought I saw someone standing just behind it, watching.